Hi everyone, Matthew from Matty's Custom Scale. The next edition of building this weathered car. We've got most of the paintwork done, as you can see, and what we covered was in that last session was doing the blue paint over the rust coat and different techniques that we used to get this type of effect so far. The next thing I usually do is just with some sandpaper. I've got about probably a 400 grit and a 1200 grit, and what I'll do is I'll start to rough up some of the blue areas, get rid of these very straight blue to rust lines and let them fade in a little bit, and try and expose some of the rust bubbles and the rust at the bottom of some of these panels a bit more to get that effect. And because we've got that coarse surface, that rough surface on the panels, as we start to sand away even lightly on these on the blue coat, we'll start to get a nice effect. So I'll do a little bit in, let's say, normal speed, and then I'll show you a little bit in a faster speed as well, so you're not sitting here watching sanding like it's paint dry. Okay, so I've chosen to go with the hood just because it's a nice easy panel for you to see the differences, and I'm going to start with the 1200 grit and start to work away some of that blue paint. And this paint is actually quite fresh, so we're going to see some of it come off in bits and some of it come off very lightly. But as we start to sand away, you can see a little bit come up on this bottom corner where you start to see those granules come through, and I'll just lightly sand some of these edges with the 400 grit, and I'm not putting much pressure on it at all. But what you'll start to see is the way it starts to wear down. Now these are still pretty bright colours, bright blue and the bright rust, and we're going to tone those down with some weathering techniques later on. But right now we want to start getting rid of those harsh edges and merge things through. So I'll chip away at that. I'll show you a little bit of footage at a faster speed, so you get an idea of what I'm doing, but I won't show you the whole car, and we'll go from there. Okay, so here's what I'll show you at normal speed. I'm going to do the other panel, the other side. Start blending in those rust colours together, and then we'll start working on that blue. Okay, starts wearing away down. Okay, that's one part of the panel. I'll continue the rest. You can see this one's been worn through in most areas. Tailgate, hood. Again, haven't started on the doors or the rest of the body yet. Okay, remember one of the earlier episodes we put some BMF, and you can see some of that outline underneath the paint, and we'll clear that outline up a little bit later. But the reason why we put that BMF in earlier is when we sand down this edge and go through the paint down to that rust coat, If we go in some areas just a little bit more, we should start seeing some of that BMF shine through, and that should give the impression of some raw steel. You just got to be a little bit careful you don't go all the way through, because then you'll hit the plastic again. I can see a few spots in person, but I just want to get a bit more coming through so you can see it on the camera. If you see that top edge, that will be your BMF coming through and giving that raw steel look. And when it picks up the sun or the light, you can see it coming through. And as I said, that top edge we'll get rid of that part later on, but you can see the steel look coming through on some of that, and we'll dull that down a little bit as well, but that looks like a more genuine scrape.